Iowa edge rusher AJ Epenesa has been a popular projection to the Falcons in mock drafts, but could a harsh media evaluation from last week's NFL scouting combine change that narrative? We'll talk about it next on AJC Falcons News Now.
This is AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Brandon Adams and former Atlanta Falcon Chuck Smith.
The 2020 NFL Scouting Combine from Indianapolis is in the books. We'll talk about what's next for the rest of the league and the Atlanta Falcons here today on AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. By the way, before we're done, Chuck's in a good mood because one of his guys showed out this week. Big time showed out.
Yeah, two of them showed out. Nebraska twins, that's what everybody called them, Carlos and Khalil Davis.
Yeah.
Made history. Big men making history.
So we'll talk more about that later on the show today. AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Let me begin with this, though. You know, AJ Epenesa has been, I would say, the most popular projection to the Falcons, the number 16 overall pick in the first round of the NFL draft. You and I both have expressed our skepticism of, do you really want to draft this guy? You know, he comes from Iowa. We don't typically think of that as being kind of like a game-changing, program in terms of the elite athlete. And apparently, we're not the only ones that feel that way, because it was not, according to what I've been told, the greatest combine of all for Epenesa. In fact, let me show you one pretty harsh evaluation of Epenesa in the media. Vic Tafer says that he's hearing that AJ Epenesa's draft stock took a big hit in Indianapolis. Red flag, lack of athleticism. What do you make of that, Chuck Smith? Should that scare the Falcons off drafting him, that a blue check on Twitter is saying he's unathletic?
Well, it should scare the Falcons because I said he's unathletic.
Yeah.
I said you shouldn't go to in-and-out guy. But seriously, I watched it. I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
Because, a lot of times, listen, all these predictions, people predicted Epenesa to go to the Falcons in January. All right, so let's be honest. Let's pump the brakes. But I actually put my eyes on him. So let me tell you what I saw. I saw lack of quick twitch. He cannot rush off the edge. Now, he could be a bull rusher, right? But the quick twitch guy I'm looking for is a guy that can just hit the edge. All right? I saw lack of body control and terrible balance. He was doing the coverage drills. It's like a wave drill where you go left, right. He couldn't change direction, right? Then he was stiff. And then to me, I wasn't exactly built like, you want that lightning quick big guy to go. But to me, man, big loser at the combine. Now, listen, I have seen guys that, that aren't as good, and they built like Sinbad the comedian now. This guy was bad built that can become good players. But again, dang, terrible day for this
YouTube kid. Already weighing in heavy on this topic. Anthony Wright says, I like and I want AJ Epenesa, but only if Javon Kinlaw's not there. We may have more than that before we're done. Iron Mike's laughing, saying, y'all saying that boy's not fast and physical? Tony Russell comes back to say Epenesa is too stiff and has no bend or get off around the end. Reese Dog says if you draft Epenesa, you're still going to need a Leo. And then Anthony Wright comes back and talks more about Javon Kinlaw. Let me give you some of the numbers here. Now, listen, the honest truth is I have no idea what half these numbers mean, but I've been told they're not very good. Now, I know this one, 5.04 in the 40-yard dash. That's slow, right? I mean, he's a big guy, but for a guy that you want coming off the edge, that's slow, right?
The first thing he did when he ran that, when he found at that time, he should have closed it, covered his eyes, and backed up out of it. That's absolutely embarrassing. If you can't, again, let me let you just get and say it, and I'll fill in here.
Only 17 reps in the bench press? That's supposed to be his claim to fame. He's supposed to be a big guy. 17 reps?
Shame.
32 and a half on the vertical.
That's pretty good.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
9 on the broad jump?
Nah, that's that's not really that good. That's not terrible, but
7.34 on the 3 cone?
Man, he was riding a big wheel around. I don't know.
4.46 in the short shuttle. How was this guy a 5-star prospect coming out of high school? Like, that's the whole thing is like when we were first, or at least when I was first dogging him for being, an Iowa player. I don't want an Iowa player in Atlanta. When I was first doing that, the response was, well, now remember, class 2017, this was a 5-star player. If you're not bench pressing, you're not running the 40-yard dash, you're not doing cone drills and short shuttles, how you get to be a 5-star?
Because the measurables. How big
These are
is
not
he?
good measurables.
No, the measurables is his size. We're not talking about his speed and agility and all that. Listen, Now, let me just drop this on you now, and because you guys obviously at Dog Nation are big on recruiting.
Right.
Man, I got guys I train right now over the last couple of years. They never ran the 40.
Yeah.
Because they're 6'5", 250. Listen, man, there's more sorry 5-stars that come out that never get to be NFL players than you wouldn't believe. Because the point is, they get evaluated by a gang of, let's be honest, a gang of guys who just put eyes on them. I want to see what they do on the field. Now, from the measurable standpoint, when they go to these little camps, ain't nobody really looking at the time and really evaluating it. They going by the size. And listen, you ain't even got to be a baller to be a 5-star. You can be 6'6" with long arms, and you walk in the building, you get an offer. I mean, I know schools that offer guys just because the other school offered him and he's 6'6", and the first thing they say, oh, he's long. Long getting coaches fired now. I'm just telling you. So from what you're saying, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. But what he did now is no indication on why he was or wasn't a 5-star because he's probably big, tall, and long.
All right, best competition he faced this year. He did have 2.5 sacks against USC in the bowl game, although USC wasn't very good. Had 2 sacks against Nebraska. Nebraska's not very good. He did have 2.5 sacks against Minnesota. That was a top 10 team this year. Had a sack against Wisconsin. So, only had a sack against Penn State and a sack against Michigan. He's not really playing bad against the bad team. It's not like he had 5 sacks against Rutgers or anything like that. I mean, he has many sacks against the good teams they played as he had the bad teams. I mean, I looked up his game log to see, is this a guy that's beating up on the Rutgerses and the teams like that? And the honest truth is, he's doing about as well against the better teams as he is the other ones. Did not have a sack against Purdue, for instance, but did have a sack against Wisconsin. I guess you do with that what you will. Yeah. To me, this is a guy the Falcons don't want. Right. You cannot draft AJ Epenesa. You can't do it.
But Brandon,
you can't do it.
See, but I hear you, and I totally understand that. To me right now, it's really an emotional time for the kids, right? They're going through everything they're going through, but it's really emotional time for all these cats that make predictions that ain't trying to live up to it now. Oh, now we're going to beat him up. Y'all was already on his jock the last month saying he's a top 6. Let's be real. I want everybody. Not our audience. No. I'm not talking about our. Yeah. I want our audience to go out and look at all these guys who have the blue checks like Vic and see what he said about Epenesa. What about a month ago? Yeah. See what these guys. I'm not talking about our guys, but I'm just telling you, there are a gang of people out there that will tell, oh, he's the greatest thing. And I told you, we haven't even seen this process yet. Now let me talk about the real fair process to Epenesa. There are guys that run slow. There are guys that aren't as big. There are guys that are real big. There are guys that are short that become great NFL players and sometimes Hall of Famers. So is this an indication if he's going to be a good or a bad NFL player? No, there is no indications on that because, again, if we go by just speed, size, and all that, our guy, number 44, who just left here to be a Hall of Famer. Yeah. Because all his measurables and speed is off the charts.
But there were people, even when he came out of Clemson, said he wasn't big enough.
I mean, 6'2", 200, he was 6'2", 240, 250. Again, this is not necessarily about Vic. All I'm saying is, no, he didn't test well. But I see guys that come out and have great careers, that aren't that athletic.
Well, let me get your response on this because Tony on YouTube, and I'm going to do Facebook, I promise, in a minute, but Tony on YouTube says, Cleavon Chason went 9 games at a sack. Why do y'all guys want him so bad? He's not that good. The honest truth is, I don't want Chason that much either. But from the standpoint of Chason and Epenesa, why would you? Because I think you have said you'd take Chason over Epenesa. Why Chason over Epenesa for you?
Because there ain't no other options. And that's the only ones we talk about.
Yeah.
This is a weak draft. This is a weak draft for pure edge rushers. So what we talking about on the show, I'm taking the lesser of the two evils. Does that make sense? So that's all. I mean, those are the only 2 guys that are been in the wheelhouse.
Okay, so here's where I'm kind of evolving to now, and we're going to take a lot of comments on this. It's AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite, the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm like you. I definitely don't want Epenesa anymore. I didn't want him before. Now I'm sure I don't want him. I don't know what a good time for a cone drill is, but apparently his wasn't very good. Tells you all you need to know. This is a guy that's going to be slow getting around the edge. You can't, as somebody said, you draft him, you still need somebody to play defensive end because half the time it seems like he may be playing something else. Chason, I agree with what Tony said on YouTube. About half the time, he didn't show up. That's not very good. I've said before, I want to see the Falcons draft the best running back available, which I believe is DeAndre Swift. But if you're not going to do that, and it seems like the Falcons are not going to, Trade up and get Chase Young. Trade whatever you got to. Listen, when I got the guy Vic Tafur over here, calling
Vic don't know what he's talking about.
Epenesa unathletic.
Vic just sitting in the house. Man, Vic don't know.
Well, Tony on YouTube, he does know what he's talking about, and he's right. Chase only shows up about half the time.
I agree with him on that.
Trade for Chase Young. Trade whatever you got to. Trade half of Cobb County. Do whatever you got to do.
How about that?
Trade for Chase Young. Trade for Chase Young. Just trade it all.
I hear you. But
just do it.
Real quick.
Do it.
Real quick. Can Connor pull that video back up we saw of Epenesa?
Let's see some more of it.
Can he see some more of it? What I do like here, guys, is look, he's using a move. I think it'd be funny if it's in
slow motion.
No, it is, but he's using the side scissors. When you watch this, he's using, look, well, that's just a maul. Coming up here, I think he's going to use the side scissors. Let's see. Get it set up. All right.
There's something about the Iowa uniform. It doesn't even look athletic.
Hold on. I think this is the one coming up. Let's see. This is what I like right here. Look, he's going wipe. Side scissors. That's great. That's hand movement.
It's taking like 5 minutes to get there.
But those are the kind of things that you want to see in the NFL. I'm going to ask any of our viewers.
You can't do that to Patrick Mahomes, though. He's going to take one step up and hit a 45-yard bomb.
He won the rush, but what he did is use the move. All right, Falcon fans, I'm challenging everybody out there right now. All the 1,000 people that watch us, send me one video where you saw Tack McKinley or Vic Beasley use that one move.
Wait, so you in on Epenesa now?
No, I'm just saying that you can become a good player, but what I do like about him is he doesn't test well, but I just watched him use a signature pass rush move that works in the NFL. Now, do I want him? No. And the reason why I say that, because I want an edge speed guy. I want a burner, right? Chase Young, I already said that. He's a 3-4 guy to me. He's like just a young buck out there because he's raw. He's just all over the place. But there is no one else I see worthy of the Falcons drafting at 16. I like Kinlaw. I like Brown. I like Chase. But, all I'm saying is I seen from this man right now one move than I've ever seen in 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's true.
That's what I'm saying. Our viewers ain't never seen that. Send me the video. Hold up, Chuck Smith, NFL. You show me a swipe that one of them guys did.
Aaron Elbert on Facebook says, why not sign a young defensive end like Dante Fowler, then grab Getter Gross Matos in the first? Like, I don't really know what it is about Gross Matos, but it just doesn't seem like he gets put in the same category as the other ones. And the honest truth is, I don't really know why, but you see some pretty clear separation between him and some of the guys we talk about at 16. But the honest truth is that, like, I don't dislike Fowler as a player, but man, there's a little bit of a distrust there. But the fact that he's got this 1 year, the most recent year, that's this huge production. Now I got to pay big bucks for something he did in somebody else's uniform. Honestly, like, I don't love either scenario, but I'd rather pay draft capital for a guy in Chase Young who's going to perform for me as opposed to paying dollars for someone who performs somewhere else. Plus, this city needs to be excited about the Falcons again. You give me the choice of all these names, including Dante Fowler. Signing Dante Fowler, the idea of you tune in to watch the draft on that Thursday night and Atlanta sliding up. We're going to have more on some of this kind of stuff in a moment. But sliding up, going to get Chase Young, that's the kind of thing that's going to re-energize the city. You've only got a couple years left with Matt Ryan. You've only got a couple years left with Julio Jones. Take advantage of these all-time great players for your franchise anyway, all-time great players. Take advantage of them while you still have them in your prime. If you trusted Dan Quinn enough to bring him back, if you trusted Thomas Dimitroff enough to bring him back, then trust them to make the bold move here. Because don't bring him back and say, but you can't do this. You're going to come here and coach again, but you can't mortgage the future for Chase Young. If that be the case, then you're not fully trusting them in the job that you're allowing them to do again. I've talked myself into this completely.
I ain't saying
I've talked myself into it completely.
What you hey, hold up. What happened this weekend? Did you get hit up across the head with one of your son's baseball bats?
No, look.
Did you just say start jumping on the Falcons, give it all up for Chase Young?
Just do what you got to do.
I'm saying.
Win the race for Chase.
Oh, Lord. Hey, but I hear you. But to me, that's a dream.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand what you're saying. That would be perfect. Now, back to what you said about, it's going to energize the city. Look, man, the city's battery is on dead right now when it comes to the Falcons. Matter of fact, the Hawks, they trying to get a little life over there. The Braves dead after they've fallen apart. But to the Falcons, there's nothing that's going to get the city energized. I don't believe there's a player in this draft.
You don't think Chase Young won? I think you'd see, if the Falcons draft Chase Young in April, if you walk the belt line on Saturday in May, Sunday in May, you're going to have Chase Young jerseys all over that belt line. All over that belt line.
I think people will be excited, but remember, this team is absolutely disappointed for years now, for the last couple of years. So to me, there's nothing that you can do except come out and win. I mean, everybody's like, show me now. This is, you can draft all you want, you can change uniforms, show me now. Then I'll say this is not going to happen, so I don't want y'all beat me up. There's only 2 players in this draft that could energize the city, and they're not that position. They play the quarterback position.
So I think
there's nobody.
Okay, so I think you're making a good point that you're saying that pass rush is the same thing as quarterback. I do happen to disagree. I do happen to think that Chase Young being drafted will be welcomed way more than Trey Young was. And Trey Young has become a pretty popular player in this city now.
I don't know,
Chase Young being drafted at Ohio State, having the year he just had, would be welcomed in the city way more than Trey Young.
I disagree.
Way more.
I disagree because listen, the one Trey Young had a whole literally a culture wanting him. Remember, Trey had all the rappers behind him, all the entertainers loved him. I mean, because of whatever he did at Oklahoma, and I think so. Listen, LeBron James legitimized Trey. Say, oh, he's gonna be this and he's gonna be that. But anyway. But let's go back to Young. But I'm just saying this. I hear you. He would look. The Falcon fans would love it. It would go a long ways with the organization. But they got to come with some winning. Yeah. So you bring in Chase Young, the Falcons still lose. But I do hear what you're saying. It'd be better than getting Epenesa.
I mean, listen, it's a bad deal. I mean, giving up a bunch of draft picks over the long haul is a bad deal.
But you said you don't like that.
That's because right now, only thing that matters is the short term. This is like taking that weekend to Vegas. You put the whole thing on a credit card. Eventually, that bill's coming due. But for right now,
Well, you done came back in this week hardcore.
Well, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. I'm going to take a lot of comments. I'm going to read you one thing that kind of helps evolve my opinion a little bit. It's AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Miller Lite's the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. It tastes great. It's just 96 calories. It's a great thing to enjoy while we kind of kick around these kind of topics right here, right now. So part of what this is about for me is there is some weird talk coming out of Washington with the number 2 pick. There's some talk coming out of there. They may actually consider Tua Tagovailoa with the 2nd pick. And a lot of big-time rumors out there to the point that the all-time great from the, or I shouldn't say all-time great, former Redskins quarterback Joe Theismann has kind of weighed in with his criticism of this. Here's what Theismann says. I'm going to read this. This coming from a podcast. 24/7 Sports, I guess, is the one that transcribes the quote. They're out of their minds. This is Theismann talking. If they think that Tua will go number 2 to the Redskins, the position belongs to Chase Young. Think of it. We're going to a 4-3 defense. You got Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. You got Matt, I'm not going to bother that last name. You got Montez Sweat, your guy. You got Ryan Kerrigan. You have a rotation. Now you add what I think is the best athlete in the draft to our defensive line. Jack Del Rio sitting there, and on he goes. So the rumors of Washington drafting Tua are so great that Joe Theismann's going around the media circles kind of talking about it, which leads me to believe is if you could get the break and all of a sudden Redskins draft a Tua Tagovailoa and leave Chase Young, all of a sudden now it's not quite as expensive of a trade up anymore. Where you got Detroit sitting at 3, you got Giants after that.
They're talking about Giants. They're talking about anything's open too.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, the cost of trading up, with all this talk about quarterbacks, I've always felt like for Atlanta, who's not in the market yet for a quarterback, all the talk about quarterbacks might make it a little bit easier to get what I believe, and I think you would agree with me on this, clearly the best non-quarterback in this draft is Chase Young. Clearly.
So they're going to have to throw in some players too then, right?
I don't know.
Draft picks.
You just got to do what you got to do, man.
Oliver, you're going to throw in True Font.
You know what the kids say, YOLO.
You didn't get nothing in return.
YOLO, you only live once. You just got to do it, man.
Yeah, you know what? I'm surprised. But to me, especially when you look at the 49ers blueprint, for success, vicious defensive line. But it doesn't surprise me. Daniel Snyder and the Washington Redskins have always kind of been, not necessarily managed this team in the right way. But I'm interested to find out who has the ultimate say on the personnel, right? And I'm figuring it'd be Ron Rivera, but you never know.
Right.
Because to me, everything that Joe Theismann is saying, you got a 4-3 defense, you got all these great, guys on defense. But I've seen crazier things, man. Here's it real quick. Let me just jump on. To me, the better option for the Falcons is with the Giants. Try to figure out something there because they're talking about drafting getting Yannick Ngakoue in free agency.
And by the way, Ngakoue came out today and said he has no plans on signing a long-term contract with Jacksonville, essentially opening the door for him to be traded somewhere else or something along those lines. But he made it very clear on social media. There had even been some talk at some point of, and this was like kind of a wild rumor, but if Atlanta re-sign Austin Hooper, they could trade him to Jacksonville for Ngakoue. I don't know if that's realistic or not. But one way or another, Yannick has made it clear that he does not plan on re-signing in Jacksonville.
Yeah, and so that kind of coincides. We talk about the Giants and Yannick, knowing he's going to leave, is maybe you look and see where the Giants are and some of the teams around there. And you kind of go, maybe you go for Derrick Brown. To me, that's also a good pick. If you
That's a good point.
If you can get down and probably get Derrick.
All right, let me get a good number of comments here.
Okay, let's go.
Peter Pickett says about Washington, so does that mean they've just given up on Dwayne Haskins? I don't know that means that, and ultimately I think this may be a smokescreen, and Washington may be in play to draft Chase Young unless a team like Atlanta were showing a willingness to move up. But I think the one thing that none of us can ever factor into this is that they have sat across from Tua Tagovailoa and spoken with him, and there were reports that Washington met with both Burrow and Tagovailoa. So in terms of when you talk face-to-face with someone, you just get a different experience, right? We watch these guys on TV. We sort of judge how their stats look. But the NFL teams are meeting with the guys. And if after meeting with Tagovailoa, you think that he's better than the guy you just drafted, we saw Arizona move on from, what's his name from UCLA, Rosen.
Drew Rosen. Rosen.
Yeah, so it's not like we haven't seen a team move on from a quarterback it just drafted. Arizona did that just last year. Ultimately, do I really think Washington's going to do that? I really don't. I think they're trying to drive up value for their pick. But there's always been this thought of, for certain teams, they may be impressed with spending some one-on-one time with Tagovailoa. Now, there was also a South Florida Sun-Sentinel report this week that among the teams maybe not as impressed with Tua as you might have thought were the Miami Dolphins. So all of this, take it for what it's worth. Right. But whether a smokescreen or not, that is out there when it comes to Tua and the Redskins right now. A few more comments here on Facebook. JJ Green says, I told you the quarterback will be moving up. Young didn't work out to solidify his number 2. That could hurt him and be a gain for Atlanta. Yeah, but he's going to have a pro day workout at some point in time, and I think that's going to be just fine. People have seen, in fact, Thomas Dimitrov essentially said this when he spoke in Indianapolis last week, that even if Chase Young didn't work out at the pro day, there's still going to be no shortage of people looking to draft him because of what he does. And some other people were making the comparison in our comment section. I'll see if I can find one of the names here. Calvin Joseph Berksteiner, for instance, mentioning Isaiah Simmons, the Clemson linebacker, who had, by all intents and purposes, had a tremendous scouting combine performance. But for me, Simmons doesn't rival what Chase Young brings to the table, because while Simmons may be good at a variety of different things, Chase Young is elite at the number one skill that matters for a defensive player, rushing the passer. So Simmons may be good at a lot of different things. Chase Young is dominant at one big thing. For me, that makes Young the more valuable commodity.
Well, I agree with you. And I tell you, Isaiah Simmons, man, new hybrid gadget guy. I mean, you can put him anywhere on the field. Looks like, he can rush, he can cover. But
he's what you wish Devondre Campbell was.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just being serious.
I was worried. Boy, you hot today, man. You got some hot takes today.
No, but it's true. I mean,
no, you're exactly right. But I still, still funny though. Still funny.
Mark Brantley says, if we're going to go all in on and dropping salaries and adding a free agent pass rusher and trade up a few spots for Kinlaw Brown, who had a terrible combine. Yeah, so the defensive tackles I'm not even so sure about. I mean, I still like the idea of Kinlaw, and you're seeing some examples of maybe he falls to Atlanta. I'm not telling you that's a bad thing, and from a long-term drafting a guy where he's projected, hold on to the rest of your draft capital, that's kind of a safe, sensible decision. It's sort of like buying a Volvo. You're not going to regret it maybe, but it's not quite as exciting as what you might be able to do on another end of this. And I guess the question kind of comes down to is, do you want to live bold here? The Julio Jones era started with a gigantic trade up. Do you want to also end the Julio Jones era with another big trade up and try to win it all? Because I've told you this before, back when I wanted the Falcons to tank for Chase Young. You get better offensive play, and it remains to be seen if they're going to get that, but you get better offensive play, and Chase Young as kind of a one-man game wrecker as a pass rush on the other side, I think Atlanta can win 11 games next year. I still think Matt Ryan's good enough to do that. I still think Julio Jones is good enough to do that. I think Calvin Ridley is about to take the next step of his development. This can still be a dynamic offense. There are enough pieces there to do that. If you pair that dynamic offense with an aggressive pass rusher, I think this team can win 11 games next year.
Yeah, I don't think Chase Young's lost any stock with not performing. I think it was 16 linebackers or something that performed this year, some record. But a lot of players are doing that. But if I represented Chase Young or he was my son, man, we ain't doing nothing. I'm going to pro day, and I'm serious. I'm doing a couple drops. I'm not even running a 40.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I might not even show up. He's still going number 2. You know what I'm saying? Because all the stuff around, this is the NFL. This is business. Those guys already, listen, the most hyped up and overblown part of this process is the combine.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, why? Look, if the combine was so important, why would so many guys not do it? If everybody knows they're going to lose stock, so look, the combine, and let me just say this, I kind of was tweeting this out this weekend, kind of, getting after the NFL a little bit, some of the guys I know over there, because I know they're going to read it. What is the combine about? You get to do 1 rep. How are we going to evaluate 1 rep? Okay, you get to do the step over drill. You get to do 2 reps. Then there's 30 guys there. Okay, let's talk about the 5-10-5 or the L-cone drills. You get to do 2 times. So come on, man. Listen, all this is about now is about entertainment, it's about TV, but there's no real evaluation. The only evaluation is for really the bench press and the guys that do the 40. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I mean, you only getting the position-specific drills don't even matter.
Right.
But when you get a guy like this, like Nick Bosa, man, I'm good. I ain't even gonna play the whole season. That's what's about to start happening.
Yeah, it's tough.
Look, again, I know people always say, it's all about the education. I'm educating my son on how to get paid, okay?
Right.
So if my son gets to be Nick Bosa, I'm not even going to class. Man, we're going to be number 1. I'm going to wait till the season goes over. I'm going to train. This is a business.
Yeah.
And these young boys, that's how they're thinking now.
So Kevin Brentlinger in our Facebook comment section, I'll do some more YouTube comments in a minute, but Kevin says, if you move up and get Chase Young, you're essentially mortgaging your entire future. Here's where I hate to be negative, but honesty compels me to admit, as it stands right now, I don't believe the Falcons have a very bright future. They don't have any salary cap money. If you look up and down the roster, how many good young players does Atlanta have? Now, I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm really not. But how many good young players? I would argue that Calvin Ridley fits that description of a young player who hasn't quite broken into the fullness of his prime yet, but I think it's pretty impressive.
McGarry, would you say McGarry?
I think the possibility, if you're starting as a rookie.
You got to put him in there, though.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you McGarry and Lindstrom.
Okay.
I'll give you both of them.
Right. 3.
That gets you to 3. Is there a young defensive name that you say, like Grady Jarrett's not old, but I don't know that I would think of him as a young up-and-comer.
What is Grady, 5th year?
I think of him more as a guy in his prime right now as opposed to a guy that's about to pop.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him young because he's established himself.
And hear me when I'm saying. I'm not saying using the downside of it. I'm just saying he's arrived. He is in the prime of his career right now.
Wow.
Is there a young name on defense that you say, man, this guy's about to really explode?
Well, we already got 3. So, I mean, listen, that's a heck of a question.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it.
So when you don't have those young guys in the organization right now in the pipeline, when you say mortgage in the future, I'm not even sure what the future is going to be. In the near term, the future may not be very good. So the question kind of comes down to, if that reckoning is coming at some point in time, do you want to enjoy this present while you can? And that's why I would say make what may eventually be viewed as a bad decision, make it, swing for the fences, and if you got the Lombardi trophy, the future will take care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get 1.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I would give up my draft picks for the next 3 years if I could win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
1 Super Bowl, listen, we ain't won, how long the Falcons been around? 60, 70, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years?
Yeah.
We ain't won 1 Super Bowl. Come on. So let's look at it from the standpoint, if you get 1, listen, if you can win 1 Super Bowl like almost every 20 years, every 10 years, New England's that's unbelievable. Because think about, let me give you the best example ever how important and what 1 Super Bowl can do for you. I'll never forget in 1998, Falcons, we got there, we lost to Denver. Okay, we kind of created a little trend with the dance and all the cool stuff. The next year, team that we beat up, kind of used that for motivation to become the greatest show on turf, bobbing and weaving. So remember, this is the LA Rams now. Remember, they win the Super Bowl. Remember, at that point, we thought it was a dynasty.
Yeah.
They're going to keep winning the dynasty. Kurt Warner and Isaac Bruce and Marshall Faulk, they can't be stopped. Then they get knocked off, and they only win 1 Super Bowl. So when people talk about the greatest show on turf, they only got 1. So they have what's it been, 20 years?
Yeah.
So now they get back last year. You win a Super Bowl again once every 20 years. That is absolutely phenomenal. Now, you want to try to be good and get one every 10. Name me how many teams in the NFL have won 1 Super Bowl in the last 10 years or once every 10 years.
Sure.
Pittsburgh, looks like New England now, but it's rare. So if I'm listen, I give away 5 years of draft for 1 Super Bowl because you don't get them. It's rare.
Right.
Everybody's continuously. So look, so number 2 is now the winner. So if you look at it every year like we're going to keep rebuilding, you ain't, listen, everybody that don't win a Super Bowl is a loser. There's no glory in being second because number 2 is not a winner. No one talks about the number 2 teams. So at the end of the day, if you can get a Super Bowl, if we know we can get that Super Bowl, man, you got to do whatever you can do. I agree with you, Brandon.
So Anthony Wright on YouTube, we're talking about, future stars, the Falcons, young players maybe about to pop, take that next step. Anthony Wright mentions a couple defensive names, Kendall Sheffield, DeMonte KZ. I like both of them. I think they both have better football ahead of them. I wouldn't put them in the same category as a guy, like Calvin Ridley. Now, that's an unfair comparison on one end because Ridley was such a high draft pick. But, Ridley to me has the look of a future star. That's the blueprint for, if you're going to say, this is what a star-level player at the NFL looks like right before he becomes that, that's what I think of Ridley as.
They're not stars.
Yeah.
I
think they're below the Ridley caliber for sure.
Listen, they're not in Ridley's conversation. And if those are our 2 rising stars, we got more issues than we're saying right now.
Mm-hmm. And Legendary Physics says, what do you guys think about Cam Akers? If you're thinking about sort of beyond maybe the first couple of rounds for running back, I think Akers is among the most interesting names out there. Out of Florida State, a former elite recruit, one of the best high school backs from the South in the last few years. A guy that was from Mississippi. I think that Akers is a very, very interesting name all the way around. And you mentioned this a moment ago, Chuck. Somebody talking about how the game film is more important than the combine. One of our YouTube commenters, I'm trying to figure out where this was. I'm losing it now. Had made the comparison to Jeffrey Okudah, where Okudah, after being an elite player with Ohio State, goes out there in the combine, has kind of a weird moment where he kind of gets banged up a little bit. It seems like he's going to be okay, and I know that he kind of stopped some of that combine work. But, how crazy is this? We're forcing a guy like this to go through these drills when he's already shown on film that he's a great player, I think best cornerback in the draft.
Right.
And yet, you run the risk of an injury in the combine. That whole situation is kind of crazy.
You'll talk to GMs now, man. They'll straight tell you, Brandon, well, what we really evaluate the film, we don't care what you're doing when you got on, shorts and a shirt. And here's something I always say, just a thought. If the combine was so important and the 40 at the combine, why do they let you do a redo at the pro day? Why? If it's that important for you, if you don't have to run at the combine, you don't run the combine, and if you run bad at the combine, they take your 40 time that happens on pro day, which is on a handheld, it's not laser.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It just shows you the importance of the combine. There's really none.
Shane Elliott says about the future here, he says, I'd tag Austin Hooper and trade for Yannick Ngakoue and then get Robert Quinn in free agency. That'd be a lot of moves and probably financially pretty difficult to do, at least on the Quinn and Ngakoue front. But nonetheless, the subject of Austin Hooper actually brings me to something that D. Orlando Ledbetter's written in the AJC. We'll get to that here coming up in just a moment. It's AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Of course, one of the great ways to stay up to date on everything going on here is to watch our show, brought to you by Miller Lite, but also become an AJC subscriber. When you check out subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now, D-Led, Steve Hummer, Michael Cunningham, the entire staff there, you can keep up with it all. Mark Bradley as well. Lots of different choices, daily e-paper sent right to your device. Home delivery on Sundays, you want that. A great way to sort of hang out and enjoy a little breakfast on a Sunday morning or a cup of coffee, whatever else. Or if you want 7-day home delivery, you can get that as well. Whichever option you choose, you can, of course, cancel anytime. And as a special thank you to you, you get this officially branded Falcons cooler. It's one of the ways that we show off that the AJC is a proud partner of the Atlanta Falcons, and this can be yours, a complimentary gift when you become an AJC subscriber. Simply check out subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now to claim yours. So D-Led had a nice piece up. You should read this for yourself at ajc.com, where he kind of talked about what we learned from the NFL Scouting Combine. And one of the things that he mentions is the pretty quickly, rapidly growing market for Austin Hooper services. We've kind of debated back and forth about how much money he's going to command in free agency. What's he really worth? Well, the one thing that D-Led brings up here is that there are a lot of rumors coming out of the Combine about teams that could be ready for him. Packers, Cowboys, Redskins, Jaguars, Bears, Patriots, all mentioned in D-Led's article there of kind of what came out of the Combine last week. And in a roundabout way, if you want to command that big sort of like 8-figure per season money, 10 million, or we've heard even more than that, then the way to get there is to have the huge number of teams we just mentioned. You've got to have multiple suitors for your services. It's not one team that drives that up. It's multiple teams. And for Atlanta, who has said, we're going to let the market get set by somebody else, and then we'll jump into the fray, the chances of Atlanta being able to swoop in and hold on to their guy, if that's indeed what it wants to do, which at this point in time maybe it can't afford to do that anymore, That's just made more difficult to do with the tremendous number of teams who could be chasing after Austin Hooper right now.
Yeah, and I said you couldn't come at a better time in the history of football to be a tight end.
Yeah.
You couldn't come at a better time when this new collective bargaining agreement is about to pay players like you can't even dream in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I've said on record, you develop a guy, you draft a tight end. You develop the tight end. He becomes a two-time Pro Bowl. He's one of the only players in the first 6 games, last couple of years, he's been money, right? And then you get to the end, and you don't really put much fight to try to get him signed. You don't see the value in him. And to me, it's a mistake. And a lot of people say, I won't pay him $10 million. This is the NFL. You got to stop thinking in everyday money. This is nothing for a tight end today. It's nothing. After you just watch George Kittle, look at all these tight. I mean, this is a different. I'm watching George Kittle. He's doing video. I mean, he's doing commercials. This is a different tight end era. And Hooper, the upside is tremendous. And this is listen, when the Falcons said that they're going to let him test the market, he's already gone. Number one, it's disrespectful for this guy who wanted to come back. You draft him. And listen, when you did that, the market's already gone. You hear that. And I can just tell you this right now. Hooper's going to go somewhere. He's going to be a baller because, I mean, it's just unfortunate for the Falcons. I don't know how the cap and all that ultimately fit. But as a player, we've waited for a long time. They even brought in the old man Tony Gonzalez for years trying to find a guy. So let's be real. In between Tony Gonzalez and Algie Crumpler, I remember after Algie, people were saying Matt needs a go-to. He needs a tight end. We need a tight end. You got the guy. Now you're about to get rid of him. Now you got to start from scratch.
The other thing that D-Led writes about and kind of what we learned about the Falcons in the Combine, and I'm going to take some solace in this, that he's on my side, at least it seems like here. He says Cleveland Chason's production in college doesn't match his athletic ability, but he has a bigger upside than Iowa's AJ Epenesa. D-Led says, we need to do some research on what it's going to cost to trade up to the number 2 spot to get Ohio State's Chase Young. And ultimately, that's part of the motivation for this in my mind too. You can solve this problem a different way and draft the best running back available, which I've kind of argued for. But we heard Atlanta last week. Dimitrov, over and over again, the need to upgrade the pass rush. Dan Quinn, over and over again, the need to upgrade the pass rush. If all you've got there to do that is to choose between a guy who looks the part in Cleveland Chase and who didn't always play that way, or a guy that actually played pretty well, AJ Epenesa, but he doesn't necessarily look the part in terms of the NFL prototype, at that point in time, you've got to be motivated to go out there and solve the problem in a different way. Because as D-Led kind of alludes to here, the Epenesa versus Chason debate, honestly, that's not that much fun for anybody because there's too much to argue against for both those guys. If it's gun to my head, choose between the two, I'll take Chason over Epenesa because at least the high end for Chason is so much better off. But just given the limitations that both guys have, different limitations for each one, but they both have a great number of limitations. Given that is the situation, then man up, flex up, roll up, and go get the best one.
Yeah, mine has more to do with the position fit. Chason's an outside linebacker.
Yeah.
I mean, he needs to be played like Vic, truly more like Vic. You know, he's more of a true hybrid, but man, you know, it's tough when you're in a situation you need an edge. In the Falcons, it's just a tough situation where they're at. Now I'll just say this about Chase Young, which I love D-Led. I love you too, brother. But to me, I'm just trying to visualize what scenario, what can the Falcons do to get him?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to think, is it players? Is it what, you know?
It's probably a draft.
It's got,
it's,
yeah,
it's
I
like
mean.
It's just a ton
but
and
how
ton
many
of
first
draft
round
picks
is it going to take?
Probably an extra one at least.
Just 2?
16.
No way.
No, I'm saying in terms of the number ones, it's 16, another number one, and then some other stuff after that. You got 2 seconds to play with. You got 2 seconds to play with. But like the line items of things you have to trade begins with another number one, and then it's how many seconds and whatnot you're throwing on top of that.
And that would alleviate the problem. And I agree with you and D-Led. Hey, just go get him. Let's just don't worry about no one else to go get him. And is that realistic?
Yeah.
If it happens, it's realistic. But right now, the way I see it, I'm just trying to. I can't see it that way. But I'll just say the impact now of the team as far as a player. Now you got a real building block on defense. You got an edge rusher, right? Now it complements obviously Grady Jarrett, but hey, this kind of player from what I see in Chase Young, I mean, this is has potential. This is Myles Garrett. This is a guy. This is Joey Bosa. This is Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
10 sacks right off the rip. I mean, it would be if they were to do it, I'm willing to give up a lot. I mean, this guy's really phenomenal. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Octavius Yeomans, to go back to the Hooper topic for a moment on Facebook, says, I feel like the Hooper decision was forced on Atlanta because of the cap situation. And that may very well be, and I've kind of made my case for, in a perfect world, why you'd want to re-sign Austin Hooper. But here's what I think one of the positive developments for Atlanta, and we'll get to this with Kamal Ishmael maybe before we're done on the show today. Atlanta is now talking a little tougher when it comes to stuff like this than it has in the past. I think there's been way too much, lifetime contract for this guy and lifetime contract for that guy, and every rookie drafted gets his fifth-year option picked up kind of no matter what. The fact that we're not doing that in Atlanta as much anymore, the fact that Falcons brass is a little bit more just willing to kind of talk tough on some of these guys.
Player friendly. They've been player friendly.
They've been too player friendly, I think, when it comes to contract negotiations. They seemingly are doing a little less of that now. Even though I think Falcons fans justifiably would like to see Hooper coming back, the fact that Atlanta set the market for him by saying, go see what you can make somewhere else and then we'll talk. And doing the same thing with Devondre Campbell. That positioning in the public by the Falcons, I do think is a step in the right direction for the organization. You just got to talk a little tougher when it comes to some of these negotiations.
Right, and I agree with you. So look, this is what my thing is with the Falcons. If you're going to get rid of Hooper and you're going to say that, I like it, boom, all right, you do what you want to do. Basically just saying, hey, man, we can deal without you in so many words, and we're really not trying to sign you. And I just think, to me, a little bit of it comes with, I love the brotherhood. And we hadn't heard nothing about the brotherhood.
Well, the brotherhood is.
I love the brother. I like the concept, but I almost think it's more about being cool and being, a part of it, not necessarily as much about what your actual production is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, yeah, they're good guys. They don't, say negative things. We're all kind of in the same line. But I just think they have to, get to the point now where it's all about winning. I mean, put your hard hat on and let's go.
Yeah.
All the slogans and all that stuff, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it for my son's high school team.
Right.
But right now, these are NFL men. The brotherhood comes with, what brotherhood should be called? The professionalists. Mm-hmm. Just be a professional.
Yeah.
Professionals, that has to be the work. It's not a boys club. It's the NFL. It's a business. And to me, some of that stuff adds to why you show a little more love and, coax guys, pat them on the back. Oh, man, he's a part of the brotherhood. No, he's not good enough. It's about being professional, not the brotherhood.
By the way, Tavares Sims on Facebook brings up a good point. I have a tendency sometimes to talk a little bit fast. We're going to have to be really, really careful here in the future. Are we saying Chase Young or Chason? We're going to be really, really careful because when I start talking a little fast, the Chase Young and the Chason can sound a little bit the same.
Yeah,
so that's a pretty good point. That's a pretty good point. Earl Thompson also mentioned Devontae Freeman. That's something else that D-Led's written a good bit about lately. I just think that you got to move on from Devontae Freeman. I think the Freeman era here is done. I think the writing's on the wall about that. I think Atlanta has liked Devontae Freeman and has valued what he's capable of bringing to the table, but I think you've got to look to the draft for your next running back, and then you've got to hold Dirk Cutter's feet to the fire, but actually using that. That's one of the reasons why, if you're not going to trade up for Chase Young, I would use that 16th pick on the running back, DeAndre Swift out of Georgia, and then turn to Dirk Cutter and say, I just gave you a first-round talent at running back. Now you've got an obligation to use him because Dirk Cutter has not shown a willingness to call running plays. So that would be the value if you go early in the draft with a running back, not in the first round, maybe one of your 2 second-round picks. All of a sudden that puts a little more perceived pressure on Cutter, the offensive coordinator, to actually use the running back at that point in time. So, I think it's time to move on from Devontae Freeman. I believe that's what the Falcons are going to do. And I think you've got to force your offensive coordinator, Cutter, who you chose to bring back, you've got to force him to then use the running back position.
Yeah, and we talked about City getting excited. I definitely think that he's excited if you brought Swift. He's electrifying. He's, he can cut, he can move, does all the things that fans like. But the guy I want, not at 16. Now, I want to, and you said he's got tread on his tires. I know you're going to say it again. Give me that big hoss from Wisconsin.
16 seems high for Jonathan Taylor.
No. I don't want him at 16.
Oh, okay.
I don't want him at 16. He going in the first round, though. He's going late in the first round.
Yeah, maybe back in.
He's going to back in, yep. So that's what I like. Now, at 16 again, they'll get happy and hype for him, but I don't know. I'm going to get me a back later in the draft. I might not use one of my top draft picks to get a running back. I'm going to get somebody in the back end. That's what I mean. Again, but I do like Swift for the excitement. but I don't like him at 16.
Grizzly God of Sauce on YouTube says that Austin Hooper's a system tight end, and there have been some stats that try to kind of push that same idea out there that he wasn't doing as much against man coverage as you might think. He was kind of sliding underneath zones a little bit, finding seams in zones, and getting a lot of underneath throws. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. I guess my point to go along with Sauce here on YouTube is to say that Atlanta needs to make a system capable of making another tight end as an Austin Hooper replacement. Because at this point in time, I think the ship is probably sailed. I think that Hooper's going to end up playing somewhere else. I think that he's even insinuated this himself on Instagram and some places like that. So if you're Matt Ryan, who I still believe in as a franchise quarterback, I think that he's still one of the top guys in the league. You've got to go out and make a new tight end. Austin Hooper became a Pro Bowler in this offense. Shame to have to start over with scratch with somebody else. But if you're a franchise quarterback, getting franchise quarterback dollars, then part of your job is going to be to go out and create another capable tight end in the same mold of what Austin Hooper was. And I don't think that's unfair to ask that of Matt Ryan, to ask of an offense that features Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Receivers go out there and be so dominant that all of a sudden they're passing lanes for tight ends to step in and be involved with. I don't think that's asking too much. And I think that whether Hooper was a system tight end or not, you now need a system that's going to create a new tight end in Hooper's stead.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
That's something I was going to kind of talk about. What is a system tight end? What is a system? I understand system quarterback and all, we're hearing all this, but ultimately, everybody plays in a system. Now, was George Kittle a system tight end? They run the ball and they throw in play action pass. That's a basic system.
Well, I think what some of the people might say is, and I have no idea if this is true or not, but a Kittle, a Kelsey, guys like that are doing it more against man coverage, primary route in the progression. They're doing that a little bit more than what I guess some people are going to say that Hooper was, which was a little bit more of a dump-off target. I think of Hooper as a little bit more of a dynamic player than that, but like Pro Football Focus and some of those math guys have said that a lot of what he was doing were underneath throws and like stick routes and things like that.
That's because the quarterback was on his back, got sacked the most. Offensive line was terrible. Well, it was a disaster is the best way to describe it. Look, listen, to me now, I disagree with that. There are not a lot of teams absolutely blitzing, Kansas City.
Yeah.
They're sitting back and trying to what? They're trying to let them drag it out. They're not trying to blitz because what? They're gonna hit you over the top and score points fast.
Yeah.
So what I see is people are playing zone. So what I see is a lot of these two tight ends we're talking about, from Kittle to all the other guys in the league, they're sitting in pockets and they're getting thrown because everybody, you got to stop the run.
Yeah.
Or if you got Patrick Mahomes, ain't nobody sitting in the kitchen sink, so you got to go man-to-man with Kittles. You hardly ever see anybody go man-to-man. If you want to know the truth, go back and watch the film. He's finding his way in the pocket. He's part of a system. They're all part of a system. You don't just get to freelance. You don't just get to go out there. You at the party, everybody's slow dragging. You get to just start doing your thing.
Everybody's what?
Everybody's slow dragging,
Okay.
It's do the slow drag back in the day. But the system thing drives me crazy. It does.
Ed Graham on Facebook says that Hooper's going to disappear after he leaves the Falcons. I don't know if he'll disappear. I think he's a good player. I'm going to tell you right now, my tune on Hooper changed once you started kicking around these $13 million per season numbers. I think a lot of that is just, bluster coming from agents. If I had to guess, that's what I think anyway. But at that price, Hooper can go play somewhere else. I like him. I'd love to see him come back to Atlanta. But at $13 million per season, I heard he may get as much as like 26 guaranteed, essentially 13 a year for 2 years to go along with kind of a $40 million contract. At that price, he can go play somewhere else.
I ain't surprised.
He can go play somewhere else.
I ain't surprised. Y'all Hooper haters, you're going to see.
No, you know I'm not a Hooper hater.
No.
But everything's got a price.
It's somebody out there hating.
Yeah.
It's a hater. Somebody hating on Hoop, man. But look, this is the only way we got to evaluate it. Okay? I think he's going to be a great NFL player. You don't think he is. So keep tuning in. About week 3 or 4 next year, we'll be here. And when Hooper's balling, I need you to hit me back.
Yeah.
Look, man, the guy's built to win. The guy's been successful. And this is something I always go back to. What was wrong with the system in the first half of the season? Julio Jones caught almost no touchdowns in the first 6 games? I know in the first 7 games, Julio was hardly 1-2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Hooper was all they had. So he's a part of a system. That's all he had. But again, Matt's on his back, offensive line. That's the reason why Hooper's getting them 5-yard curls. Because nobody on the other parts of the offense was doing nothing. I'm down with Hoop. Matter of fact, Hoop, get your $13 million. Matter of fact, they need to throw in the house, everything else with you, because Hoop's going to be a baller.
Well,
throw it all together. Throw it in there.
It's AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Miller Lite, the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. It tastes great, and it is just 96 calories. I thought Michael Cunningham from the AJC had an interesting column saying that the Falcons might benefit in 2020 from a lack of great quarterbacks on the schedule from the opponents. And part of the point that Cunningham makes, the page of the AJC, is in the division, it looks like you may be facing Drew Brees twice. But I'm going to tell you right now, at this point in Drew Brees' career, I don't think he doesn't scare me. I don't think Drew Brees scares anybody anymore. Obviously, we don't currently know who the Tampa quarterback's going to be. And for now, the Carolina situation is very much in flux. There's a chance that after all of this, Cam Newton may still be coming back. It seems kind of odd. So let me give you the opponents. I'll go home games and I'll go away games. You tell me if these quarterbacks scare you. The Bears situation, obviously not a scary situation.
No.
Detroit, I like Stafford fine. I'm assuming he's still the quarterback there in 2020. Not a scary situation. Probably playing Denver in London. They have no quarterback right now. The Raiders, is it going to be Tom Brady? I'm not sure.
Derek Carr, probably Derek Carr.
So that's not a quarterback you're worried about. As Cunningham mentioned, the two Panthers, the two Bucs games, as of right now, seems like you'll have an advantage there. Now, you do face Aaron Rodgers. You do face Patrick Mahomes, both those games on the road. You got Dak Prescott. I've kind of made my case before for why I'm not big on Prescott. You got the Minnesota situation, which obviously, is, I guess you can say what you want about that. I guess here's my takeaway in all of this. When you look at this from Michael Cunningham's perspective and how Atlanta compares to the quarterbacks that you have going in here, to me, this puts even more pressure on Matt Ryan to kind of live into that and be that franchise quarterback that he's supposed to be. Go out there and outplay these guys. One of the stats I love kind of talking about this show is the way in which Ryan has outplayed guys like Russell Wilson in the playoffs before. He's outplayed Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs before. I think that Ryan is still mostly that same franchise quarterback who was winning these playoff games a couple of years ago. Well, against an uncertain quarterback situation in Tampa, as it stands right now, it's uncertain. Uncertain in Carolina. Shaky situation with some of these other opponents, Chicago, Denver, teams like that. All the more pressure on Ryan to go out there and be that franchise quarterback this upcoming season, right?
Yeah, that article kind of actually makes me sick. Just seeing where the Falcons we are right now, we got to hope that these teams ain't got no quarterbacks. Listen, to me, I hear you. That's last year. Things change real fast. Look at the Niners. They had a 4-win team last year. If we don't stop looking at stuff, if we ain't learned nothing about this schedule right now, and who's on the staff and who's on the rosters, all that don't matter.
Yeah.
Listen, that don't matter. The Falcons, what were we, 6 and something the year before, and then they were going to the Super Bowl?
Right.
Again, that don't matter. There's so many. Listen.
Well, what's interesting about this, though, is I'll let you finish your point.
Yeah.
What's interesting about looking at this from the standpoint of the quarterbacks you could be playing, it's a little bit different vantage point because by virtue of win-loss record from the year before, I think Atlanta's got like the 5th toughest schedule in the NFL on the basis of like win-loss record from the previous season. So from that standpoint, maybe getting a break with some shaky quarterbacks might be a good thing for Atlanta because one of the things that hurt Atlanta this past year was also strength of schedule. Atlanta's actually played a relatively tough strength of schedule now, what would be for the second consecutive year.
We'll know how strong the schedule is after the first quarter, first 4 games. You cannot predict that right now. But again, I love it for the fans. I love it. They feeling good, man. We got to play against these sorry quarterbacks, man. We're going to get to the playoffs. But I do understand that has more to do with the interest in it. Articles like that, people going to love it. Me, I mean, as far as giving real information, I absolutely think it's just not truly factual when you start talking about the season could be say or better because these other teams, there's more going on with these teams, man, that have to do with than one quarterback that's not on the roster.
Well, let me zero in on a couple of the games in particular.
All right,
cool. Beating Green Bay on the road, you could be 14-2 and still lose that game, right? And that's a tough game to win.
Yeah.
World champions Kansas City in Arrowhead Stadium, you could be 12-4 and you're going to have a hard time beating Kansas City on the road. Those are the toughest games you'll play, I would say. Games like Carolina ought to be some of the easier games to win. Look at some of these swing games here for a moment. At Dallas against Dak Prescott. I told you before, I don't think of Dak Prescott currently as a franchise quarterback. I know he's not a bad quarterback, but I don't think of him as a franchise quarterback. That's a game where Matt Ryan's got to totally outplay.
Oh, my goodness.
You got to outplay Dak Prescott. You do. First of all, if he's a franchise quarterback, you wouldn't be hearing all these Tua Tagovailoa rumors and Tom Brady rumors and everything else. You wouldn't be hearing all that kind of stuff. Do you think of Dak Prescott as a franchise quarterback?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. But
that's a game that Matt Ryan's got to outplay.
There are different levels of franchise quarterback. When we think of franchise quarterback, everybody thinks Tom Brady. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. There are different levels of franchise quarterbacks. I mean, the franchise quarterback means he's good. He can be good enough to put you in position to win a Super Bowl, right? I mean, Dak Prescott to me is a quarterback that can take his team to the Super Bowl. Has he done it yet? No. But how many quarterbacks in the league got Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I mean, ours ain't got one.
Right. I'll say the same thing about Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. Right. On the road against Cousins, Kirk Cousins is not a franchise quarterback. He's getting paid like one, but he's not a franchise quarterback.
But remember,
that's a guy you got to play better than.
Yeah, you got to play better than, but that's the same Minnesota defensive line I seen almost kill the Falcons at the Dome at the Benz a couple years ago. So now, but here's my thing. We want to pencil that in. Kirk Cousins is not exactly some scrub off the street. When he's on his A game, he's a solid. We've seen him last year play well. But like, to me, listen, when you see, and that's really interesting, you said Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. I thought you was going to be saying like Kyle Allen or something.
Well, no, I mean, it should be a given. If Allen's starting, it should be a given that you're outplaying him.
Yeah.
But I'm saying some of the swing games, Cousins in Minnesota, Matt Ryan didn't outplay him this past year, Prescott in Dallas. That's a swing game where, like, if you're still what I think of Matt Ryan as one of the probably 6 or 7 best quarterbacks in this league, then you've got to put some distance between yourself and a Cousins, some distance between yourself and a Dak Prescott, because Prescott and Cousins are not one of the 6 or 7 best quarterbacks in this league. Those are the sort of swing opponents you've got to outplay. Are you going to outplay Patrick Mahomes? Probably not. Are you going to outplay Aaron Rodgers? At this stage of his career, that's a little easier to do than it used to be. But guys like Prescott, guys like Cousins, those are guys you have to outplay. You've got to go out there and win the gunslinging duel against those guys.
Yeah, but it's more than gunslinging duel. But I hear you.
Yeah.
But these two quarterbacks, to me, the swing game comes if what you just said right now happens. The Falcons are underdogs on the road both games.
Oh yeah.
Falcons.
For sure.
So how is this really? We have an advantage when we know. I can say right now, when the Falcons go to Minnesota, they're going to be the underdogs.
Oh yeah.
Okay, when the Falcons go to Dallas, they go to Dallas, they're underdogs. By a
little bit, yeah. By a little bit.
Listen, Dallas is building something. Defense? They got to run and get. They're building something. They got to figure out what that.
They fired their coach.
Again, that ain't got nothing to do with building.
Yeah.
We fired our coach, and 1 year Dan was here, and they made it to the Super Bowl. But I'll just say this. Y'all act like I love, and listen, I'm a big Matt Ryan fan.
Yeah.
And shouldn't have to apologize for it. But we talk all of a sudden, like beat Dak up like the first 7 games, Matt Ryan was like this superstar.
Right.
Dak Prescott, in the beginning was absolutely, Matt wasn't even close to better than Dak.
I guess what I'm saying is if you're trying to get your way to 9 or get your way to, if you want to really dream about 10, if you're trying to go from 7 to 10, trying to go from 7 to 9, it's games like Minnesota and it's games like Dallas that a 7 turns into a 9.
I got you.
And I do realize what you're saying, that the game is about more than just quarterback. What I'm saying, though, is a very simple formula for how you turn a 7-9 into a 9-7, or dare I say a 10-6, have Matt Ryan prove that he's still a $30 million man and going out there and outplaying that quarterback on the other side. That's a very simple formula from flipping the script from 7-9 to 9-7.
All right, let me ask you this. What about Tampa? Is that one of those games?
Should be.
Let's look at Tampa. You think Tampa's going them games, right?
On paper right now, it should be. Now, Phillip Rivers signs in Tampa. That's a little bit different. But, I mean, but as of right now on paper, that ought to be one of them.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to last year.
Yeah.
Game 1, what happened to the Falcons?
They got drilled. Against Tampa, they got drilled.
Who's the better quarterback
that day?
Okay. The second game.
Yeah.
Jameis and Matt Ryan were the same guy. They went to overtime. I mean, so here we go. To me, what happened in 19 is what we're talking about last year.
Right.
So if we look at this year, you look at Jameis had 30 interceptions, but in the last game, he threw an interception to lose the game. But if they score, what happens? You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is this. The Falcons are in no position to even think that a quarterback gives them advantage in 2020. Just my opinion.
Well, that's tough to hear. That's tough.
How is it tough? I just dropped facts. I just dropped knowledge, just real facts.
No, man. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, but if you are wrong, that's not good news.
No.
You may be right. You may be right.
Just an opinion.
But if you're right, that's not good news. Well, you got to have your quarterback go out and outplay people next year.
Yep. And I respect Mike for the article, but I disagree.
All right, let me do this. I mentioned this at the top of the show. if you tuned into the NFL Network for the NFL Scouting Combine, you saw something really, really nice. As Chuck Smith was pointing out, a couple guys from the Nebraska corners. But we talked a lot of Big Ten on today. Probably more Big Ten talk than an NFL show should be doing. But nonetheless, a couple guys from Nebraska, big-time performance. In fact, earning some high praise in the NFL Network. Take a listen to this.
AWS, and we just saw the defensive linemen do their thing, namely the twinning Davises out of Nebraska. And this is on a scale of 1 to 100. And look at this, pending the results of the three-coding shuttle. How about this? Khalil Davis would join Aaron Donald and Ed Oliver as the only defensive tackles with a 99 athleticism score since 2014. It's pretty good company. A pair of first-round picks, including a two-time Defensive Player of the Year in Donald. It's pretty good.
So good stuff there as the young men from Nebraska go out there and dominate a lot of these drills. Clients of yours dominate the combine as well as anybody could have. And I'm gonna give you some credit for that. We've been arguing a little bit about it on the show. I'll give you some credit for this. Your guys doing work with you, going out there and showing out in Indianapolis. That's great work. That's great work.
They did really good, man. Two twins, identical twins, Carlos and Khalil Davis.
But what a great feeling for their parents, man.
Oh man,
what a great feeling.
Two guys that was adopted at birth. You know what I mean? Just one part of their story. Growing up in Kansas City, I mean, what they did is incredible. 308 pounds, 315 pounds, running sub 4.8, one was 4.7, and these guys are guys that the Falcons should have on their radar.
Yeah.
They are going to be on their radar because, I mean, these are the kind of guys in that 4-3 defense that Dan Quinn likes. So we'll see how, moving forward, how that goes. But great story. If you hadn't heard about Khalil and Carlos Davis, there are articles out there. It will blow you away, and then you'll find out that these cats, every day, they drink a gallon of milk and ate 12 eggs, the whole carton, every day from the time they were in high school.
That's fantastic.
Their mom had to lock they had a refrigerator. They put a refrigerator in their room, their mom and dad, because they kept eating. I'm just telling you, you would not believe the eating habits of these dudes. It was an unbelievable story. Two great guys, and man.
How gratifying is that for you, for guys like that to go out there and kind of show the world what they're made of? That's got to be a good feeling for you too personally, right?
It is, man, because, we work with the guys for 7 weeks in the combine. They come here, they get here in December. You work with them, you see their dreams. They want to go to the combine. And, man, when you just start seeing the success and everybody's talking, especially guys that people, they know about, but they don't really, at the combine, there's so many stories that are not the big name. And these guys, I mean, they earned everything. And hopefully, the Nebraska Twins will keep rolling.
Hey, thank you all for being here with us on AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. It's our plan to also keep rolling as well, including being back here again on Friday. More draft rumors, more free agency talk around the league involving the Atlanta Falcons and kind of what this team needs to do to be set on a better course for 2020 and beyond. We'll talk about that with you then. For Chuck Smith, the former Falcon great, I'm Brandon Adams saying thanks so much for being with us.